Forgetten love.
I am an old man now. My hair is white, and my hands are weak. I sit by the window every day, watching the trees outside. The wind moves the leaves softly, and I remember my past. Memories come like waves. Some make me smile, and some make me cry. I had a wife. Her name was Eleanor. She was kind and beautiful, with a warm smile that made every day brighter. We had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I worked hard every day to give them a good life. I wanted them to have what I never did. Elena cared for the house, cooked meals, and helped the children with their schoolwork. Our home was full of laughter and love. Years passed, and the children grew up. They went to school, made friends, and started spending less time with us. I understood they needed to explore the world, but it still made me sad. Elena would always tell me, "They will come back. They love us." I believed her. One day, Elena became sick. She stayed in bed for many weeks. I took care of her, cooked for her, and sat by her side. I told her stories to make her laugh, but she was too weak. One evening, she looked at me and said, "Take care of the children. They need you." That night, she closed her eyes and never opened them again. My heart broke into pieces. The house became quiet and lonely. I hoped my children would stay with me and fill the silence, but they were busy with their own lives. They visited less and less. One day, they sat with me and said, "You cannot stay alone. It's better for you to live in a home for old people." I wanted to say no, but I saw no other choice. My heart hurt, but I nodded and went with them. Now I sit here alone. The days are long and the nights are cold. I think of Eleanor and the life we had together. I ask myself, did I fail as a father? Did I do something wrong? But there are no answers, only silence. This place is called Golden Days Home. It is clean and quiet. There are other old people here, sitting in their chairs, lost in their thoughts. Some of them talk to me, but most of the time, I sit alone. The nurses are kind but busy. They bring me food, give me medicine, and sometimes smile at me. Every morning, I wake up early and sit by the window to watch the sunrise. The light paints the sky with colors, and for a moment, I feel peace. Then the day begins, and I feel the emptiness again. I think of my children. Where are they? Are they happy? Do they think of me? I remember the times I carried them on my shoulders, took them to the park, played games, and laughed. I worked long hours to buy them clothes and toys. I taught them to ride their bikes and helped them with homework. My hands were tired, but my heart was full. They were my pride, my joy, my everything. Now they are far away. They call sometimes, but their voices are hurried. "How are you, Dad?" they ask, and before I can answer, they say, "We're busy. Take care." I understand life is hard, and they have their own families now. But still, I wish they could visit more. One day, a nurse gave me a notebook. She said, "Write your memories. It will help you feel better." At first, I didn't know what to write. My hands shook as I held the pen. But then the words started to flow. I wrote about Elena, her soft voice, her laughter. I wrote about my children, their first steps, their first words, their bright smiles. The notebook became my friend. Every night, I wrote before I went to sleep. It felt like I was talking to someone, sharing my pain and my love. I hoped that one day my children would read it and understand how much I love them. But sometimes I wonder if they will ever read it. Maybe they are too busy to care. Maybe they will forget me, just like they forgot to visit. These thoughts make my heart heavy, but I keep writing. It is the only thing I can do. The days here are all the same. Breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 6. Between meals, I sit by the window or in the garden. The garden is small, but has flowers, roses, daisies, and tulips. Sometimes I watch the birds. They sing and fly freely, and I wonder if they feel joy or loneliness like me. One afternoon, a young boy came to visit. He was the son of one of the nurses. He smiled at me and said, "Happy?" "Hi, Grandpa." His smile reminded me of my youngest son when he was little. The boy sat beside me and asked, eagerly, "Do you have any stories?" I nodded and told him about my childhood, the village where I grew up, the green fields, tall trees, and the clear river where we used to swim. I told him about my best friend David and how we climbed trees and played hide and seek. As I spoke, the boy's eyes grew wide with excitement. For a moment, I felt alive again, sharing my memories with someone who listened. After he left, I felt a mix of emotions. I was happy to talk to him, but it also reminded me of my family. I wondered if my grandchildren knew about me. Do they know how much I miss them? Do they know how much I want to hold them and tell them stories too? One evening, I asked the nurse if I could call my eldest son. She handed me the phone, and I dialed the number with shaking hands. He answered after a few rings. Distant. "Hello, Dad," he said, his voice distant. Softly, wistfully, I told him I missed him and wanted to see him. He said, unconvincingly, "I'll try to visit soon." But his words felt empty, like a promise he didn't mean to keep. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking of Eleanor. She would have known what to do. She always brought the family together, made the house warm and full of love. Without her, everything fell apart. I missed her more than word could say. I held the notebook close to my chest, whispering. "Eleanor," I whispered, whispering, pleading, "if you can hear me, please tell our children to come. Tell them I'm still here, waiting." Tears rolled down my cheeks. The pain was too heavy to bear, but I kept hoping. Maybe one day they will remember me. Days turned into weeks, and I waited by the window every afternoon. I hoped to see one of my children's cars arrive. Each time I heard the sound of an engine, my heart jumped, but every time it was someone else. A visitor, for another resident, or a delivery van. My hope grew smaller each day, but it never fully disappeared. One day, I decided to write letters to my children. I found an old notebook and a pen in the drawer by my bed. My hands trembled as I began. The first letter was for my eldest son. I told him about my life here, the quiet days, and the memories that keep me company. I reminded him of holding his hand when he was little, teaching him to walk and ride a bike. The second letter was for my daughter. I wrote about her smile, how she used to sing while helping her mother in the kitchen. I told her how proud I was when she graduated from college. Affectionately, "You are my sunshine," I wrote, just like I used to call her as a child. The last letter was for my youngest son. I reminded him of our fishing trips and how he laughed when he caught his first fish. I told him I missed his jokes and the laughter that used to fill the house. When I finished, I carefully folded each letter and placed them in envelopes. I asked the nurse to mail them. She smiled kindly and said, "Of course, Mr. Raymond. I'll send them right away." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. The next morning, I went to the garden. The air was fresh, and the flowers swayed gently in the breeze. I closed my eyes and imagined my children reading the letters. I pictured their faces, perhaps touched by my words, deciding to come and visit. But days passed, and there was no response. No phone calls, no visits, no letters. My heart ached, but I told myself to be patient. Maybe the letters will remind them, I thought. That evening, the young boy returned. He brought a small drawing, a picture of me sitting under a tree, smiling. "This is for you," he said. My eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," I whispered. His kindness reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there is still light. One morning, the nurse walked in with a letter. "Mr. Raymond," she said with a smile, "you have mail." My heart raced. The handwriting was familiar. It was from my eldest son. My hands trembled as I opened it. He apologized for not visiting. He wrote about his busy life, his demanding job, and how he often thought about me, but never found the time. He promised to visit soon and bring his children, my grandchildren. Tears filled my eyes, both of relief and longing. I read the letter again and again, memorizing every word. I showed it to the nurse. "See, they do care," she said kindly. Her words gave me hope, though deep down I wondered, would he really come? A week passed, then another. Each day I looked out of the window. My excitement was noticed by the other residents. "My son is coming," I told them with a proud smile. But as the days turned to weeks, doubt crept in again. One afternoon, I wrote again, this time to my daughter. I told her about the letter from her brother and how it lifted my spirits. I reminded her of our long conversations and said, "I miss talking to you." I gave the letter to the nurse and waited again. The boy continued to visit, telling me stories and showing me his drawings. One day, he brought me another, a picture of a family standing together under a tree. "This is your family," he said. Tears filled my eyes again. I placed the drawing next to my son's letter. The days were still lonely, but those small gestures gave me a reason to hold on. Then, one bright morning, I heard footsteps in the hallway, different from the usual ones. My heart began to race. The door opened slowly, and there he was, my eldest son, standing tall but hesitant. Behind him were two little children, holding his hands. I couldn't speak for a moment. He stepped forward. "Dad," he said softly, "I'm here." I opened my arms. He leaned down and hugged me, the first time in years. His children smiled shyly. "This is Emma and Liam," he said. They giggled and handed me drawings, a house with a garden, and an old man smiling. The room felt alive again. We talked for hours. He told me about his work, his family, and how much he missed the old days. I told him about the home, the garden, and the boy who visited me. Before they left, he said, "This time, I mean it. I'll come again soon." I believed him. A few days later, my daughter came. She hugged me tightly and told me she missed me. We talked for hours. She promised to visit more. Slowly, my children began to understand. They saw me not as a burden, but as a father who gave them everything he could. Their visits became more frequent. The young boy still visited too. One day he said, "You look happier now, Mr. Raymond." I smiled and replied, "Yes, I am." As the months passed, I realized that life is not about how much you get, the moments you share with those you love. I still missed Elena deeply, but I knew she would be proud. Her love had taught me to keep going, even in the hardest times. And now, as I sit in the garden with my children and grandchildren by my side, I feel at peace.